Welcome to the Success Resequencing Project. I'm Debbie Ponticus.
And I'm Jenn Newman.
Join us as we challenge the traditional definitions of success so you can build a fulfilling path of your own.
Get ready for inspired, candid conversations while gaining tools, inspiration, and confidence to create your own authentic success story.
How many of us have grown up being told that to be successful, you had to go to college, get a degree, maybe even a master's degree, or some other form of higher education? And to build a company, you needed several diplomas and letters behind your name. Well, today's guest throws that prescription in the trash. Chris Morrison is the founding partner of RETSY, a leading residential real estate brokerage in Phoenix, Arizona, which recently partnered with Forbes Global Properties. He has successfully built several businesses, led a team that has sold over $250 million in real estate, and is nowhere near the end of his journey, and all with just a high school diploma. Join us as we ask Chris what he thinks it takes to be successful. Thank you so much for joining us today, Chris. We're excited to have you.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, we really are. Thanks for taking the time to just sit with us and dig right in.
Yeah. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to start off just by giving a little bit of a background of who you are to kind of walk through your bio. And please correct me if any of this is incorrect. So you graduated from Deer Valley High School.
Arizona boy.
All right. Then you started at ASU West, working towards a degree in pre-law. But after about 6 months, you decided, not for me, going to change direction. And then you got your real estate license.
Yes.
Okay. So that's when your whole real estate legacy began. You created a successful real estate team, the Morrison team, and then partnered with some other high-producing agents here in the Phoenix area to form a brokerage called Launch. It was a very successful brokerage. However, you thought, hey, I can do more. I want to do more with a brokerage. And so you decided to split from that company and start RETSY. So you have some co-founders with you that have joined you to partner with building the RETSY brand, but you are now partnered with Forbes Global Properties, which is great. Congratulations.
Yes. It's a big honor.
Also, during this time, you did spend some time doing some coaching programs with both Mike and Tom Ferry, and launched, in the midst of all of this, a direct mail marketing company. So you're just constantly evolving, constantly doing things. And it's important to note that technology has always been a big passion of yours. And I think that's what you feel sets yourself apart, or what sets RETSY apart.
When you say it like that, it is kind of, all I do is focus forward. I didn't even look behind, but looking at that, all true. It was a little bit of a GCC, Glendale Community College, mixed with ASU West. It was a special program then. And it was under this UCC program. They had this, basically this checklist they give you. And they're like, this is how you get into law school at ASU Law. And I thought, I like to argue. I feel like I can be pretty persuasive when I need to be. I'm like, maybe law is what I need, right? And then, everything changed. I took, rewind a little bit. I mean, I turned 18 and wanted to get out of the house, and I had a good job. I mean, I had had jobs since I was 14 years old. So had good income, and I wanted to buy a house. So I had a client that came into the golf shop and said, hey, I can sell you a house. I mean, you're 18, you have income, so you can buy a house. So I went through that process really young. I bought my first house in Surprise, Arizona for, I don't even remember the price, like $86,000 back in the day for a brand new home. And I loved it. I moved out, got a roommate, and I was like, I'm a homeowner. I love this whole process. And then also I did look at the settlement statement, and I'm like, wait a minute, she made that much money off of me in this? I'm like, and I love this whole process. So maybe I'll look into this. So I took Real Estate 101 and Real Estate 202 as electives. And then I'm like, all right, I kind of like this. Yeah. So I guess I'm going to go get my real estate license. And I got on a good team and joined Century 21. And that's what you did back in the day.
Totally.
And, it's just it was a progression that the more I did real estate, the more I fell in love with the process.
Yeah. So. I want to dig into that a little bit more, because with what we're doing with the Success Resequencing Project, what we're passionate about is we want people to understand that your path is your own. And your path to success does not have to look like anyone else's, regardless of what society may say, regardless of what your parents may say, your friends may say,
whatever the formula may look like.
And so many of us have grown up up saying hearing from our parents, or just what we think is the right path is, okay, high school, then college, then maybe a master's degree, and then you start a job, and then you can start building success and fortune. You did it differently. So let's talk about that a little bit.
So I look at it differently. I mean, for a lot of people, that is the successful path. But I kind of feel like if you're going to college and you don't have a specific reason to go to college, like my undergrad or whatever that's called is like the communications degree, which means like, basically, I don't know what I want to do with my life. Yeah, right. So I'm getting a degree. And I'm sorry if that offends people, but that's basically what it was to me. So my path was pre-law, and I like that idea. But a lot of people spend all this money going to huge debt to go to college. And, in my household, my wife, I mean, she's got a bachelor's, and she went to a really great school in Northern California, St. Mary's. Mm-hmm. And for her, it was more about the experience than what you learned. So I value that greatly. But, if you're going to go to school and rack up all this debt, it's like you kind of need to know what you want. Yeah. I kind of feel like all colleges should have like the first semester is like business coaches and consultants and people that can like look at different people that come to college and say, okay, Jen, what are your God-given talents? Right. What are you passionate about? Like, what could you be really good? And lead you on the path to decide, okay, well, I want to run a podcast, or I want to do this. I like to interview people, or I like to work with people. And then you focus your college study towards that, right? Yeah. Right. And, the reality is we're in a day and age right now where, you have pipe fitters that are making $250,000 a year, and contractors that drive nicer cars than CEOs of major companies. And it's just like, you can be successful in any industry, but you have to you need to be guided to what you like, and you need to constantly spend those years of your life wondering, what am I passionate about? What am I good at? And then take that path. And sometimes it's not college. I spent more money on real estate coaching than most people spend on colleges.
Yeah,
I believe that. You go through 5 years of real estate coaching at the different levels I did with Tom, and all the different auxiliary programs and the events you travel to, it's like probably spend $500,000 on that.
Yeah. So I'm curious, if you were to go back and if college looked like what you just described, and you would sit down with an advisor for your first semester, and they said, what are your God-given talents, Chris? What do you want to do? What do you think you would have said at 18?
Yeah.
I know at 18, I probably would have said, I want to make a good living. I want to be able to provide for my family. And I think if I went back to that time frame, like, luckily I had the right influences to where I knew real estate was kind of going to be the path from the books that I read from a very young age. But I feel like a lot of people, they just don't have that. But I think all kind of paths lean towards real estate. So that's why it's kind of been the circle of my career, Yeah. So.
When did your passion for technology start? Like you go down this real estate path, but for you, as Debbie mentioned earlier, that differentiator with technology, that is could have also taken you a million different ways. So where did you find that passion? And then how did you parlay that into working that into your real estate business?
So I always like when people talk about when they graduate, they talk about college. But for me, I graduated in 2000, high school.
Yeah.
So you got to remember, computers were big back then, and they were just getting more popular. You could do more things on it. Do you remember like the AOL CD would show up in the mail, and you rush to your computer and put it in and burn all 10 of those hours in like 2 days, and then like wonder, how am I going to afford, what was it, $29 a month back then for internet? And you think about it, it's just like, that's what I did. I just figured stuff out. I learned, and I love the idea of like a central place where I could get answers. And even back when those CDs are out there, it's like the internet's come a long way. But even back then, it was great to be able to find this and be like, oh, well, I can't afford that CD, so maybe I'll just download that music.
Yeah.
Yep.
No, I didn't do that.
All
of us did that.
We all did that. Come on. It was either that or
back then?
I was just going to say.
I was trying to remember.
Yes.
Come on.
Because what preceded that? The Columbia mail-in, where it was like, 10 CDs for a penny. Come on.
We all did that.
But I love everything tech. I mean, like I joke around, like when Rivian like announced their first electric SUV, and I was first to put in the deposit. My VIN number is like 0000044. Like,
oh, wow.
And I'm quick to adopt stuff. The second Waymo was available. I'm like, Kelly, we're going on a Waymo. She's like, I don't feel comfortable. And then go to TP, have a couple drinks. She's riding the Waymo with me. And it's like, it's awesome. It's awesome. Just the technology we have, and it's inspiring. So I like that. When you're on social media, social media kind of they're constantly showing me new tech. So
yeah. Where do you think tech's going? Like what is your thought about AI?
Such an exciting time to live in right now. AI is just going to be exponentially better. It can be good and bad for people. I think in our industry, if you're really good at what you do, essentially you're going to train your own AI models and benefit from it. But there's so many ways that AI is going to make life better. Life expectancy will go up. You get a certain cancer, they're going to break down your DNA. They're going to be able to do research in minutes that used to take years. It's going to benefit society in a lot of different ways. But unfortunately, if you are working one of those jobs that AI can take your job, unfortunately, it's going to affect them negatively.
Yeah.
There was a time I sent stuff to my attorney all the time to review, but now I can just upload it in a ChatGPT. I'm like, call out the bullet points. What should I look for? Act as if you're a social media attorney and give me advice on this document. What am I signing? It's like, that's the reality is nowadays we have that. But that said, when I'm in a bind, I call my attorney, he picks up his cell phone and gives me real advice because he's really good at what he does. But now it's like, I don't need to pay him for an hour to review an MSA. Like we just got this new tech we're rolling out for RETSY in December. And the MSA was 72 pages long. And I'm like, okay. So had it break it down and called out all the key points, made me feel comfortable enough to sign it.
Wow.
So. I love that. In a business, though, that is so integrated and really functions on quality relationships and that belly-to-belly connection with people, how do you anticipate technology and that belly-to-belly relationship working together? Like, where is there space for both? Because it's true, the human element, we can't replicate that, but we can certainly get close to it with tech. How do you work those two things out together so that the best of both worlds comes together?
I feel like personal relationships make a big difference in the transaction because a lot of times, no matter what technology tells you to do, sometimes you got to go with your gut feeling.
Absolutely.
We deal with some high net worth, ultra high net worth people that are very, very business savvy. They make split second decisions that cost their company $100 million tomorrow. But when it comes to making a decision on a house that's a perfect fit for them, they need that personal handholding to get them across the finish line. We're at a critical point right now because you got to remember when I got my real estate license in 2000, we went to the office and the MLS was this printout in this book. And you had to go through the book and be like, okay, well, now I got to find homes in this area or Sun City West and this. And it's all true. It's like, it was so difficult to find homes. And then when they finally got the MLS on a computer, that's when I excelled because I was like, okay, this is easier to build searches and when automatic searches were set up. But now it's going to be more or less like, okay, this client wants a modern home with white cabinets and they want a pool and a courtyard. You could just type it in and it'll recognize all the data and then return the results that are going to help them. And a lot of times they don't know what they want. You're both in real estate. So it's like, does the client ever actually buy you the home that they first tell you that they want on the very first phone call that you do a consult on?
No, very rarely. Yeah.
But that's our job as professionals. That's why we have some safety in our job. But if I'm a copywriter, proofreader, I'm a little bit concerned about technology right now. So
going back on kind of your journey and how you've gotten to where you are today, what do you think, knowing you, you're always, like you said, you're always, what's the next? Looking forward, never backwards kind of mindset. Do you think that has helped you or do you think that sometimes that has hurt you?
We joke around at RETSY. So I have a business partner, Shauna. She's incredible where like I'm the gas, she's kind of the brakes at the table when we're coming up with stuff. Because I'm just so focused on like, okay, well, that didn't work, next thing. That didn't work, next thing. This tech I really like. Let's implement it. This worked. Let's put that in play. But I'm a believer in like, you can't ever find the perfect product or the perfect thing, but sometimes you have good enough. And if you're willing to accept good enough and move it forward, you get a lot more stuff done, right? And then, you let the tools speak for themselves. Especially in tech, it's like, sometimes we'll have a tool that I don't think the adoption is going to be great, but then our agents adopt it really, really well. And of course, like they have to adopt the stuff that we do for them in the background. But that said, it's like, I think it benefits me because, you're just charging forward and you're not dawning on the past. I mean, I did coaching for so many years where it's just like the first 3 calls are like trying to unwind this mental cobweb of just crap they have in their head on why they can't do specific stuff.
Yeah.
Right. And I've taken coaching clients that are like so gung-ho on real estate, but they have successful restaurants they should just be focusing on, and got them out of the industry and help them make the decision on their restaurant to proceed forward. And I remember I had this client where it's just like, she was so clogged up in a divorce, and like she had a million reasons why she couldn't be successful, but didn't even realize she had one of the most successful restaurants in Northern California. And I'm like, let's chat a little bit more about that. And it's just like charging forward in those conversations brought her to a successful conclusion of that coachee relationship.
Yeah.
So
that's interesting you bring that up, because that's how Jen and I think that was a lot of how she and I got together and started coaching. And when we were coaching agents as well, we found that we got so frustrated with people who were putting the wrong focus on what their past should be, which is similar to that, where we've coached people out of real estate, similar to you, and be like, okay, you're not being fulfilled here. So that's where we think to be passionate about something, it has to provide an element of fulfillment to you, and you have to feel like you're good at it and not trying to force a square peg into a round hole, which sounds like, that's what you're good at identifying for yourself as well. But yeah, I think that that's absolutely true. Like you have to find fulfillment in something to be passionate about it.
For sure. I think that there's something about a difference between being stuck in the past and retrospect, right? There's 2 different things. One is making a choice that the way I operated is the way I'm going to continue to operate because that's just who I am. There's also, I operated that way. I think we can fine tune that, make some changes, and proceed forward. So I'm curious about how that, always looking ahead, where are those moments for you where you will take that pause and go, let me reflect. It's not about being stuck. That is not your personality at all. But where does that happen for you? Where are those moments when you're like, you know what, I need to take a beat, and this next level that we're going toward is going to require a different version of myself? Like, what does that look like for you? Do you take those moments, or you just full steam ahead and we'll figure it out as we go?
We do. I mean, I guess I don't fully understand the question on that one, but I mean, what you're referring to is like, do you ever stop and look at what you've achieved?
I think it's more. Yeah, I think it's more from a great question. It's more from when you were talking about you and Shauna, her being the brake, you being the gas. I think there's something about that moment of stopping to say in that moment, to assess where we're at in the moment and go, okay, here's where we are. This is where we've been. And then taking a moment to reflect on that so that we can be that much better moving forward. I think I'm curious if that's part of your philosophy, part of your practice, is taking those moments, not to say that you get stuck there and hang out in the past, but it's more about those reflection moments.
So I guess I should premise. So with Shauna, she's not always the brake, but
she's going to be like, why did you say I'm always the brake?
No.
Let me summarize in a couple seconds. Okay, so when we set up RETSY, right, my previous company, there was one guy that would do whatever he wanted, whether it made sense or not, and there was no control whatsoever. So that bothered me. So I put together an advisory board where any major decision for the company, any amount spent, goes through an advisory board of 5 specialists that are the best in the industry. And I purposely picked people that can be difficult, that I don't align with on certain things, because they bring different perspective to the table.
Love that.
Right? And what's funny is sometimes like, if we have a great month, it's like they'll react in saying, yes, Chris, you can spend more on tech or do this or do this. And then when we have slower months, everybody has slower months, we hit that clutch a little bit.
Yeah.
But that said, it's like taking time to reflect. So it's funny you bring that up, because tonight we have a big partners dinner. It's not Steak 44. What's the other one? City Hall.
Oh, yeah.
Rented out the private room. We're going to stop and reflect on the achievements from this year, because we did achieve some pretty incredible stuff this year at RETSY. And also, celebrate the goals that we hit this year and the milestones and the way we've grown. So it's just like, we do take a moment to stop, but the way my personality is and how I can be a little bit all over the place, it's just like I'm more focused on charging forward. But I think Matthew, who we all know Matt and love Matt, he's really good at stopping me like, hey, do you think we should do like an appreciation day, or we should do this dinner? He's really good at that stuff.
I love that. So you've got the yin and the yang there, which I think
people
is so
that support
important.
me to help me.
You found over time that for you to find success, you know the importance of surrounding yourself with others who can balance out some of the things that maybe you're not, the strengths are. Stopping and reflecting may not be your strength. Stopping to do some appreciation may not be your strength. Doesn't mean you don't like it. Doesn't mean you don't appreciate it. But you're so wired to just be always thinking forward that if you were to be on your own, maybe it wouldn't be so successful because now you know you need to surround yourself with those.
So I'm going to tell this story because it's a good story. Sometimes in business, like, your phone rings nonstop. You have back-to-back appointments. It's just like I joke around with my wife, like I don't really have a lot of time for like verbal foreplay. It's like right to business. Let's get to this next call. So Chrissy is my right-hand person, has been for the last 7 years. She's incredible. And she'll call me and it's just like, I just dive right in. Okay, we got to get this done today. How about this? Did you find out of this? And my wife will come up and she's like, Chris, ask her how her day was. I was like,
sorry.
Chrissy, how was your day?
How was your day?
And then Chrissy immediately like, tell Kelly I said hi.
I love that. I love that.
But, I love everyone around me and I'm super appreciative, but sometimes it's like, want to get the task done so I can end the day.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly.
So that's just my personality. Maybe that's helped with my success. But I know having those people around you that support you and understand you, that's important too. So,
that's super important.
Yeah.
Do you feel like success has costs? Like, what do you think that you've had to do without, or what are some things that you wish you could change about the path that you've been on?
They do have some costs. I mean, obviously going to events costs money, but honestly, like I'm not the best representative of like, I travel a lot. I mean, as you know, like I'll spend a month in Europe every year. We spend 2 weeks in Hawaii and then go back again for a Forbes event. It's like, anytime there's a fishing trip, if I can swing it, I mean, luckily I have a successful team and a successful company, so I can drop everything and go to Reno and go fishing with a buddy of mine for 2 days. I kind of live life like, that's a great way of reflecting and looking back at the appreciation for the successes is the fact that I can drop everything and go to, where do we go this year? Amsterdam. And, it's just like, and go out of town for an entire month.
Yeah.
You have a team here that's rocking, performing. The reality is you have internet, so you have access everywhere. But the fact that you can do that, because I remember back when I started coaching, like I didn't do that. And it was ingrained in my head is like, you have to take vacations. You have to plan them out. You have to schedule them. You have to force to go on it. Because otherwise you reach this level of success late in your life and you've missed all the best years that your kids were younger and could enjoy the trips. And it's like, Kelly and I are very fortunate enough to be able to do that for our kids. Like Warner tells these stories, he's in class and he's like, like they're talking about the Sistine Chapel. And the teacher asks, has anybody seen the Sistine Chapel? And he's the only one that raised his hand. I mean, that's incredible.
Cool.
That's
incredible.
Cool.
Yeah. You've talked a lot about the support system you've put around yourself at RETSY, your company.
Yep.
But let's talk about the support system at home, right? So how important and integral do you think Kelly is to your success and your kids?
Huge. Yeah, huge. So my wife understands me. And like where I'm weak in certain things, she supports. And she's incredibly smart. I mean, before ChatGPT, she was my spell check on emails and checking stuff and how this goes out and tonality. And she's just, I joke around that I'd have no friends if it wasn't for my wife, because a lot of my best friends like are husbands of her best friends. And she just attracts people into her life so well. Volunteers for so much, does so much around the house and like, and taxes and manages our rentals. And, she'll see that I'm struggling with like a tenant on a certain property and she'll just take it and own it. And, there's not a lot of people that can do that, but these are the things we've bought and we've set up to have the type of lifestyle that we have. She realizes that and then takes control over it. I mean, I would let a property go sit vacant for like 4 months because I'm busy and I can't get to putting it up on the MLS, and she'll just jump on it right away. So business, life, family, very, very fortunate to have the marriage that I do.
When we were doing our pre-interview with you for this podcast, one of the things that jumped out that I'd love for you to talk about is this concept or idea of just figure it out. So you were talking about a story with, I think it was Warner. And I think that this is how your brain works. It's just figure it out, right?
Yeah.
Like don't ask for help until you really have tried all the different avenues to figure it out yourself. So talk to us about how important you feel that mindset is to your success.
Well, I mean, part of being an entrepreneur and starting businesses is like, figuring stuff out. I mean, nobody's going to hand you like the equation for success. They're not going to do it because they'll just do it themselves, right? So you have to go out there and you have to find a problem and you have to fulfill the problem, right? I don't remember which story I told you about my kids, but I got a lot of them. Yeah. So like Warner and Avery, they love playing these video games, right? And it just boggles my mind that you can just put $20 into a video game that just disappears, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, it doesn't go anywhere. Like you spend it in like 3 days and this and that. So I'm like, no, I don't want to spend my money on that stuff. So you got to go out and make your own money, right? Mm-hmm. And he's like, well, I don't know how to make money. I'm like, well, go start a business, right? And he's like, well, I don't know how to start a business. And Kelly's like, well, you know how dad doesn't like taking the trash cans out first thing in the morning every morning? I don't think any of the neighbors want to take the trash cans out. So you guys should maybe start a business taking the trash cans out and putting them away. And they did.
That's amazing.
And I mean, like, no joke. I mean, like at any given time, they have $2,000 or $3,000 in their Venmo account. And like, I mean, like, so Warner's like, I want an Xbox. I'm like, all right, let's go shopping. We're using your money. He's like, okay.
Yeah,
it's totally fine.
And he appreciates it more.
Exactly.
And he appreciates it more. Yeah. And like Avery, I took her shopping last night and she's like, I really want this sweater. I'm like, that's an expensive sweater. Like, I wouldn't spend my money past $40 on this sweater. If you want to pay the balance out of your money, you can have it. And she's like, yeah, I don't want the sweater that much.
Yeah. Love that. It teaches appreciation of money and the value of time and how much time you took to earn that money. Yeah. I think it's brilliant. I think that's great.
But figuring it out is so key. I mean, with the internet and ChatGPT and AI and everything nowadays, there is no excuse. If you're like, I'm passionate about making cupcakes, you can go to an AI tool and say, build me a business plan, act as if I'm a CEO. Mm-hmm. Not that I'm going to say that I did this or didn't do this, but there's a lot of scenarios in RETSY where I'm like, I've never been a president. I've never been a CEO. Like, how do I figure this out? Sure. And I will go to an AI tool and say, act as this and give me advice based on this. What would you do in this scenario, in this situation? There's just no excuse for not succeeding in today's day and age. I mean, keep in mind, like back when I first started, I had to read books like Rich Dad, Poor Dad, or, you know, anything from Zig Ziglar and just take inspiration from their ideas in business and real estate. But now it's like, you know, how does this apply in my life? And the fact that you can start any business at any given time in this country and be successful, it's just, there is no excuse. Even if you have a business that's failing right now, right? You can plug it all in there and come up with a marketing plan to turn it around. Because any business, it's either you need more clients or you need more business or one and the same. And there's so many tools out there to get that nowadays. I mean, think about with, like we could go into GeoFarm or RETSY, but I mean, all it does is scratch an itch for an agent, right? I saw a need in the previous company where, you know, everybody would be like, all right, well, we have a logo and we have nothing else. What do I do? It's like, well, you need a CRM. So go here. Oh, you need to run ads to get clients. Oh, you need more clients. Oh, you have too many listings. So do this. And not enough people are coming through my open houses. Like, here's how to promote it. Have you ever done video? And it's just like, we go into, and I was helping all these people do all these different things. And then I realized like, God, like it'd be nice to have a graphic designer. You know, like, I don't know, got 300 agents. We should have a freaking graphic designer. And they didn't want to hire one. Their solution was just lean on the title company for everything. And it just bothered me. And it got to the point where it festered enough to where I think Kelly's like, it sounds like you're done. Like, and I'm like, I know it can be done better. Like, and then I was told by somebody who was like, you can't go and hire multiple graphic designers and pay-per-click people and videographers and have an awesome support staff with a good designated broker with an attorney on call at any given time and be successful as a brokerage. I'm like, I think you're wrong. Then I proved it. That felt really good.
Yeah, for sure, right? Love that.
So if you could go back in time and give yourself advice, what would you say to yourself?
I don't know. I mean, don't get lost in the details and go with your gut instinct, make mistakes. Like, I mean, we're not having the story about mistakes that I've made where I've lost money, right? Because I don't like to focus on those.
Right.
You know, but there are some out there.
Sure.
You know, I would go to myself and say, like, seek out the coaches and the business people and the people you look up to and be in front of them more, right? You don't have to pay a coach to get advice. They're paid to get advice because they're good at what they do. But you can take anybody out to lunch. Yeah. I remember we had a newer agent and she's like, you know, what would you do if you were me? I'm like, well, take a look at some of our more successful agents and take them out to lunch, right? So then I get a call from Lisa Westcott. I didn't realize she was going to start at the top. she's like, okay. She's like, she took me out to lunch and asked me these great questions and I enjoyed it. Like, I know I'm super busy, but like, I'll do that more often. Like, so that said, I would tell myself, don't hesitate to ask people for advice that you look up to. Give them the compliment of like, I look up to you. You're really great at what you do. Can I buy you lunch? You can always afford to buy somebody lunch.
Always.
Some of these people, I wouldn't take them to dinner though, because that'd be like an $800 bill.
Lunch gives you an out, right?
Yeah,
we all have to get back to work. We all have a phone call that actually comes in.
Do that and seek it out earlier. Like I think I was very fortunate in my circumstances, but even in life and business and everything, doing it sooner, looking for that advice. Some of my greatest friends and people that have helped me in my career and people I admire and look up to still to this day will pick up a phone call for me. I mean, major CEOs of huge companies, #1 educators in real estate, like you name it, they'll pick up the phone and answer because, I've always kind of given that back to them too.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
exactly.
Yeah.
We have a philosophy that leaders are readers. And we understand in today's day and age that very well can be podcasts, that can be audiobooks, that can be all sorts of different ways to consume that content. What does that look like for you? Anything that jumps out at you where you're like, this is stuff I digest so that I can be even stronger?
Yes. So I'll go on a limb and say, like, I'm not very good at sitting down and reading a book.
Yeah.
I get too antsy. Like, I don't have the attention span, but I listen to a lot of audiobooks.
Yeah.
I have hundreds of audiobooks in my audio library. When Audible came out, that was awesome. Even like certain white papers and stuff, there's a speak tool or whatever. I'll upload the PDF and I'll be driving and it'll read the PDF to me because I don't have time to do it. Yeah. But I find I focus better when I'm in the car or on an airplane.
Same.
Or, I'll be up north and like hitting golf balls on the range and listening to different audiobooks and cassettes. Podcasts are a great resource. I mean, the key with me with a podcast though, it's like if I don't figure out what I'm going to get out of that podcast in the first 5 minutes, it's like skip. But
sure.
All in podcasts, they always suck me in. Somehow they always get me to the last second, but with my attention span, it's like, I would say leaders should be readers, but leaders should always be consuming content that makes them better, that educates them more, that gives them that competitive edge. And then you got to do something with it. You can learn everything, but if you just sit on your ass, you're never going to achieve anything.
That's right.
You got to get out and do something.
Yeah. Inspired action it's absolutely critical.
Yes. Yeah. You can't just dream it.
That's right.
Yeah. Gotta make it happen.
How can our listeners connect with you? If someone wants to reach out, they want to learn more about real estate, they want to understand, they want to buy you lunch. You're going to get a lot of lunches now, Chris. Okay. So pick your favorite spots to eat. How can people connect with you?
Our website, morrisonteam.com. You can reach out to me through my email. It's chris@retsy.com. Instagram. Don't message me on Instagram, but I am on there. We use it primarily for advertising real estate.
Someone else is checking your messages. I'm sure.
Awesome. Well, we are so grateful that you took the time out of what we know to be an extremely busy schedule to sit with us and talk about these things. We know it's going to be of great value to those who are listening. So thank you. We appreciate it.
Well, thanks for having me.
Absolutely.
Thanks for joining us. If you loved this episode and know of someone who would find value in it, please spread the word and share it with a friend. We are passionate about redefining success, and it would mean the world if you could help us get our mission out to as many people as possible. Please take a moment to write a 5-star review on Apple or Spotify. You can also hit the subscribe button to stay up to date with our latest episodes. Connect with us on Instagram @Success Resequencing Project or via our website at www.successresequencing.com. We'd love to hear your story.